We are still in Chapter 3, Section 1, just getting a little bit more into the details of what this document was as the Constitution. They call it a document for all times. The original Constitution was a product of its time. It reflected the wisdom and biases of the framers, and there was relatively very few changes in the last 220 years. It survived that civil war, presidential assassinations, economic crisis to become one of the world's oldest written constitution. Of course, it was not perfect. It perpetuated a lot of injustices with compromises, including permitting slavery and the slave trade. States were given the power to set qualifications for voting. That included women, non-whites, and the poor. They were all denied that right to vote because of the times. Decisions reflected societal attitudes of those times, and the ability to incorporate changing ideas of freedom and liberty keeps this document relevant to each new generation since 1789. We call it a Constitution for all because now we know that there have been changes. In 1870, we passed the 15th Amendment, and that gave the rights of the citizens to vote shall not be denied on account of race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. That, of course, is going to let the African Americans of the South begin to vote. That did not include women until 1920. In 1920, they passed the 19th Amendment, which was the rights of the citizens to vote shall not be denied on account of gender. And then finally in 1971, there's a 26th Amendment to the Constitution. It says the right of the vote of the citizens who are 18 years of age or older shall not be denied on account of age, meaning that everybody 18 and older now has the right to vote in their Constitution. So the blueprints of this, there was 4,500 plus words. And the Constitution blended ideas from the past, uniquely American principles of governing. There's three main parts. The first thing is going to be the preamble, and we're going to talk about that in just a few moments. This is going to list the purposes in the Constitution broad goals. There's going to be 7 articles that are going to create the structure of the United States government. And finally, the 27 amendments, which are going to change and add as time progresses, how we change the way we look at things. The basic principles are based off of 6 principles: popular sovereignty, limited government, separation of powers, checks and balances, judicial review, and federalism. The framers believed that the federal government reflected and remained true to the basic principles. The goals of the United States Constitution could be accomplished. So, I got this from the book. These are some of the main ideas. The first thing is popular sovereignty, and this is where the people establish a government, and they're the source of all of its power. When we change who we vote. And when times change, we change things. That's why you see like healthcare law, healthcare reform. You see gun laws be looked at. You see all these different changes as time progresses basis off the norms and standards of society. We also believe in limited government, where the government powers are restricted to protect individual rights. That's why we have those amendments to the Constitution, so that it gives us the rights that we are actually doing to have a contract with the government. There's also separation of powers, and this is the power to govern in a divided among executive, legislative, and judicial branches to prevent the concentration of abuse of power by any one branch. And we'll talk about that in details. We have checks and balances, which is each branch has the authority to check or restrain some of the powers of the other 2 branches. Judicial review, the power to strike down laws that other government actions as invalid under the Constitution. Federalism is the right of states that are protected by dividing powers between the national government and the state governments. And I just put on here as an added thing, majority rule. It's a system in which the group that has the most members makes the decision. Idea again, we always create laws that protect the minority but promote the majority, meaning that all of us have to work together to figure out what's best for everybody in that. When you're looking at popular sovereignty, again, this is us to say if we don't like what's happening, the political power resides with us, the people. We change it. We either vote people out or we vote to have new laws that are passed. And finally, the idea of limited government. The First Amendment is the Constitution shall not make no law represent or respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which means that we allow all religions to exist in the United States. And the other part is Article 1, powers denied of Congress. The privilege of the right of habeas corpus shall be not suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. And we'll see this in habeas corpus is a recourse of the law through which a person can report an unlawful detention or imprisonment to a court and request that the court order the custodian or the person, usually a prison official, to bring the prisoner to court to determine whether that detention is lawful. So again, we have the rights to speak out, and we should not be treated any poorly because of the Constitution of the United States and the things that it supports based off of these amendments.